A long-awaited resolution, as majority of British Columbia sport workers have voted in favour of accepting the contract offer. The International Longshore and Warehouse Union Canada says almost 75% of its members have voted in favour of accepting the latest contract from its employers. The vote ends weeks of turbulent job action, which stopped billions of dollars worth of goods from being shipped. The vote to approve the new agreement with the BC Maritime Employees Association comes after the union rejected a mediated settlement twice. The Employers Association is touting the new agreement's increase in wages, benefits and training for workers. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce and the Federation of Independent Businesses are calling on Ottawa to step in next time there are labour disputes. The Chamber says following over 35 days of disruption to our West Coast ports, it's time for the government to consider providing new tools that can be used in the face of labour disputes in sectors that are critical to Canada's supply chain. The Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses adding, although the work stoppage is over, it will take weeks for the backlog to be addressed, and as a result, the financial consequences for small businesses across Canada will be challenging for months to come. The government should make ports an essential service so they remain fully operational while negotiations are happening.
So we need to ensure that the federal government steps in quickly next time should this happen. It has to be early because you can see our economy nationally and our global economic impact has already been compromised.
Business groups estimate the strike cost Canada's economy billions of dollars in trade. Let's get another voice on the show. We have with us Christina Santini, Director of National Affairs, Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Good afternoon and thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, Akshay.
So while finally there has been a breakthrough after a lot of back and forth as we've been tracking this, what does it tell you about the manner in which it already played out?
It's interesting that the unions ended up refusing two of the agreements put forward, and which was recommended by their leadership. So I think that is one thing that would lead to further discussions. All in all, from a small business perspective, it took so long and had so much uncertainty and so much disruption. We would hope that indeed new tools get brought forward to avoid these kinds of disruptions to the supply chain in the future.
You know, in the current offer acceptance as well, what we're seeing is that 25%, a little over 25% of the workers are not okay with this contract either. There is 75% who have voted in favor, but there is enough number that's saying, no, this is not all right.
Overall, the majority did agree with the terms of the contract. I can't speak and wouldn't be able to speak to why the other 25% weren't okay. That'll be for the unions to inquire into. Ultimately, what's welcomed is that stability that will come with the unions now having an agreement for the next 4 years.
Okay, now we know that
is what's welcomed.
Sorry for interrupting you there, but we do know that, of course, there have been backlogs, weeks and weeks of backlogs, containers that have been lying at the ports, Christina, and estimates say it could take about 3 to 4 months to really catch up. What's your take on the delays and the impact of this all?
The impacts will be much greater because of the delays. One might think, oh, well, now it's started up again, everything will go smoothly. Well, no, for us, those members that are most affected are those in retail and wholesale. When they're seeing 2 to 3 months delays, it could very much be their seasonal stock that when they receive them are no longer in season. So one, they're not going to get the revenues from the inventory that they have brought in, and two, they'll likely have a lot of storage fees to have that or disposal fees. So that's not the ideal situation to be in. The other sector that's very much affected amongst our membership is manufacturing, and this could lead to delays in production. So ideally, in the future, such situations are avoided.
What is it that you're hearing from, small businesses, especially in that area and across the country, on how vulnerable they feel when it comes to strike actions like this one?
They're definitely feeling vulnerable because they've taken hit after hit, and their margins of errors or their cash flow has really shrunk in the last few years. They had to take hits and lost revenues with the pandemic, some forced closures, decreases in sales, things of the sorts. Some were able to pivot, others weren't. So they've had to suffer quite a few shocks. Consumer spending is also down following the pandemic because of high inflation.
Right.
Costs are going up as well for them. So what we're hearing is we don't have room to maneuver to have inventories we can't sell on our hand or to simply lose out sales. Some haven't been able to export and thus deliver on contracts, and that hurts them too.
Indeed. How do you think the situation could have been handled better? Because what we saw was there was a strike, then there was an offer, accepted, rejected, there was a strike again, there was another offer. I mean, this went on and on and on. How do you think the situation could have been handled better?
In all honesty, there needs to be better tools for greater intervention from government and things that incite or feed collaboration in terms of do the negotiation, but keep the ports going. Keep on making sure the supply chain runs smoothly while you're negotiating. We're not against the negotiating process, but we just want to ensure that the supply chain moves smoothly as it goes, and that we don't need to get disruptions that can amount to over $10 billion to the economy happening on a regular basis. That would be our perspective. It's great the parties can negotiate. Hopefully they work constructively to that deal, but that all parties, including the federal government, should seek to find alternatives to strike actions and work stoppages.
Right. Appreciate all that. Christina Santini, Director of National Affairs, Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. Thanks for joining us on the program. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.